All right, we're recording.
Oh no!
Oh no! Freak out! All right, so I am Matt Dawson, and I live in Hamilton, Ohio, and I am interviewing.
I am Elliot Cesco. I am also currently residing in Hamilton, Ohio.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on here, Elliot, and doing this. It means a lot to me.
Yeah, sure.
And this is for the Urban Appalachian Community Coalition, and for my class with Dr. Dr. Hopkins, American Studies Introduction to Appalachia 205. So I'll go ahead and start and say, Elliot, when and where were you born?
I was born in Cincinnati, Ohio, back in 1987 at Christ Hospital. Grew up in the area here, out in the suburbs in Mainville, out by Kings Island.
It was a fun place.
Good time.
So there was good times there.
Oh yes.
All right. So you grew up there as well?
In Mainville? Okay. Stayed in the same school district my whole life. When my grandparents were around, we were about a 15-minute drive away from them in Loveland. And then, went to college, came back to the same area.
Still like it?
Oh, yeah.
Wouldn't want to move anywhere else? Maybe a little bit?
I thought about it, for a year or two, try other things out. Was really thinking about Savannah there for a while. And, just got to the point where I know Ohio is where I want to be. I can always visit other places. But there's no reason to move all my stuff halfway across the country for 2 years just to move it all back.
Sure. Yeah. Fair enough. I think I'd move as well if it weren't for the family and kids and all that. So
yeah.
All right. So what was it like growing up there?
It was nice. Never wanted for anything. Went on family vacations. Grew up in a good part of town, I guess. Was able to drive to downtown, be near a major city, but still on the outskirts up there in Mainville, because once you get to Lebanon and then there's nothing, just until you get up to Columbus. So
right.
It had the right mix of both, where there was enough space to be, but you didn't feel isolated.
Sure. Yeah. I feel some people like to criticize the suburbs, but I always enjoyed it. It's like kind of a free space and you get to go to the city if you wanted to, but yeah.
Well, certain cul-de-sacs as an adult now, I've driven through neighborhoods and it's like the same 3 or 4 builder houses. And I feel like that's a slow death. But if you're on a street somewhere and there's not necessarily a homeowners association or something like that, then, have a little bit more freedom. It doesn't look like the same thing over and over again. I got lost in a neyborhood a couple of weeks back and it was literally the same 3 houses. And I was like, I don't know where I am because everything is the same. And this part of the suburbs is nice. So.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah. All right. So what were some of your favorite things to do?
I was always into sports. Being a larger individual, football came easy. Skill games like darts and disc golf, like staying active. I also like to go out hiking and just kind of be in nature, like sitting on the back porch listening to the birds sing. And at this point just work and pay bills, so
okay, so let's get a little deeper here then. Excuse me. Where are your parents' families from?
I'm sorry?
Where are your parents' families from?
They're both from the same little 3,000 person town in Williamson, West Virginia. My dad's cousin is actually my mom's best friend. Growing up, my grandparents would babysit for my mom.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
So, my mom's family had been there for 2 or 3 generations, and my dad's family had been there for 4 or 5.
Okay.
But,
where exactly?
Down up in West Virginia.
Yeah. Where is that in West Virginia geographically? Is that near the border of Kentucky or Ohio?
Yeah, it is right on the border of West Virginia and Eastern Kentucky. And it is where the Hatfields and McCoys are from. And my great grandmother was actually born in McCoy. So I'm from the bloodiest family feud in American history. So
The best family feud.
yeah. Well, like on my dad's side of the family, funny part about Cesco is that it's spelled 3 different ways depending on what first grade teacher my grandfather's generation had. So there's Sisco, Sesco, and Cesco, and they're all brothers and sisters. It's just they had different first grade teachers, and their parents didn't know how to read or write. So
right. So they all learned how to spell it differently.
Just based off of the way the teacher taught them.
Right.
So like my dad has an aunt that is Sesco. It's hilarious.
It's very interesting. That's pretty. It's neat and interesting, really.
Yeah.
Okay, so have you ever been there?
Oh, multiple times. Love it in the hills.
Yeah.
Nice place to visit.
So what was it like then? I guess if you could share that with me.
Definitely much less affluent. There's a simpleness out there. I don't want to say like it's slower. Things move slower. It's not necessarily the South, but it has those vibes. Simple people, all very conservative, different types of Christian, dyed in the wool, kind of people like that. But nice at their hearts. But as the older I've gotten, the more I can see it through adult eyes, and I can see, what coal mining has done to those families that haven't gotten out of the hills. And now that the main industry is left, that every year the city is smaller and more run down. Like it doesn't have the shine that it did. Oh, here comes a train.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the shine that it did when I was a kid.
Does the train have coal, and is the train shiny?
Yeah. See, I can't hear you.
I was gonna say, is the does the train have coal, and is it shiny?
Can we pause this and pick it back up, or do we need to go through?
Yeah, we'll just pause. All right, sorry about that. We had a train on Elliot's end, and we took a pause. So let's go ahead and jump back into where your parents are from, and when you visited, and what you felt about that area.
Yeah. My parents are from Williamson, West Virginia. It's right there on the border of West Virginia and Eastern Kentucky. Again, it's where the Hatfields and McCoys are from, related through my dad's side back to that family. My dad's actually named Randall after Bad Randall McCoy. It was a beautiful place to visit as a kid. It was always fun, great people. But again, going back as an adult and, seeing what the industry has done and how the town's getting smaller and smaller every year, it's losing its shine. It's not as pretty as it used to be. You can see that people are struggling, and it's kind of it's depressing and beautiful at the same time. It's great to go back and see them, but then it's also, you see what it is.
Right. Has that town done anything to? Have they found any replacements for that coal industry at all? Things that
the
are
only thing that I see really taken off that's actually bringing people into the city is the Hatfield McCoy ATV trail.
Okay.
It's actually up through like where they were fighting in the hills back in Matewan, and just up and down and going on different excursions. So they've brought in like a tourist aspect of it, but it's not, there's a Walmart there, and that was a big deal. But it's put all the other mom and pop shops out of business. There's a few banks, few fast food places, and you're either working in the coal mine or you're working in the town supporting the coal miners. And then there's that ATV trail. So it shows possibility, like if for whatever reason marijuana was made legal or decriminalized to the point where they could have a green rush through there, because they would have all the space to grow it and everything like that on the hills. But it's just sad there.
Yeah. It's difficult to bring in an industry in some place that isn't developed, and if there's no other resources to exploit, it's just got to be really tough. So
no major highways, no connectors.
Right.
You get semi trailers in one side of the town, and that's about it.
Right. Excuse me. I guess we'll move on to the next question. What have your parents or grandparents told you about what things were like there? So I guess preceding your visits for your parents
Yeah.
growing up?
My parents growing up have like shown me the first house that they had together, where they went to school, like, going back to their hometown, you would show up, like, they know every nook and cranny and who lived there and whose grandkids live there now. And it's, as far as my grandparents, they didn't really describe, I was too young to really ever have those levels of conversation with them about Williamson, but they tried 3 times before they finally made it out of there, and I'm thankful they did. And so I mentioned there was some level of, we can't raise a family here.
Both your parents went to college, is that right?
I'm sorry?
Did your parents go to college?
Yes. My dad was half a year away from his master's. My mom has her master's.
Okay. What in?
My mom is in education and my dad is in international studies or commerce or something like that.
Did he
basically would be logistics, shipping out of ports.
Yeah. Did he go to Ada?
No, he went to OSU.
Oh, okay. So he went to the big guy. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Where'd you route?
I went to Ada because of football.
Okay.
Or I got accepted to OSU.
I wasn't sure if there was a relation to that because I know Ada is technically in the Appalachian region still, I believe, kind of eastern Ohio.
I'm not sure if it's because Ada is just flat. It's just up there in the farmland. The Appalachian part cuts along the Ohio River back up towards West Virginia.
Yeah. Where's Ada? Is that in between?
Ada is right there by Lima, so it's on the way to Toledo up 75. So 75 is going that way. The Appalachian Trail follows more 71 down to 32 and then out east.
Right. Yeah, like past east of Lancaster area. Yeah. Okay. You're right. I was thinking for some reason. I was thinking Ada was out there as well. So just
Ada's in the middle of a cornfield, middle of Ohio.
Gotcha. Okay. So where did your mom go to OSU as well?
She went to Marshall and Huntington, West Virginia.
Okay. Yeah.
So
cool. All right. Let's see. So did you or your parents use excuse me, let's start over here. Did you or your parents use the word, I'm gonna have to edit this.
Use a what?
I'll start over here. Did you or your parents use words like Appalachian or mountain people to describe yourselves? And do you
hillbillies?
Hillbillies? Okay.
Yeah, it was always hillbilly.
Yeah.
Figurines around the house, bumper stickers. They were proud of it.
Yeah. So that was so that wasn't derogatory. It was more an embracement.
It was a thing of pride. It was like, oh yeah, we're hill folk.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting to hear you say that because I kind of think in my mind that wasn't an insult as well, but then you go and study something in a academic setting and sometimes they want to certainly shy you away from stereotypes, which is the right thing to do in my opinion, but I think sometimes people use those stereotypes internally as well as what you said is kind of being proud and
well, I've never wanted to have sex with one of my relatives, but that's apparently a stereotype that's reinforced in my West Virginia heritage. I heard that you tell your family, you say, "Oh yeah, my family is from West Virginia," and they're like, "Oh yeah, did your dad marry his cousin?" And I was like, "No, her best friend." So
I still heard cousin.
It was in there, but it was removed.
Yeah. No,
far enough out.
I'm gonna have to edit.
No, but I get what you're saying. Like they don't want you to, but it's a term of endearment. It's not to say it, but it's more of like our word. Like we've accepted it. But I wouldn't be offended if somebody called me a hillbilly. I'd be like, yeah, I come from those folk.
Sure.
I've seen them. It's the wild and wonderful whites of West Virginia. Yeah. And you're just like, oh yeah, they're family.
That's like, my wife and I, we joke around how we're hillbillies or whatever, because just we're close to that region and we have family that are from that region, and I think we certainly sort of identify with that, and we're not there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, you can make it something wrong with it, like being derogatory.
Well, it's more of like if you choose to accept the derogatory nature of it, or if you like own it, and then it eventually gets instilled in the generation far enough out that it's like, they can call me a hillbilly all they want. It doesn't, change who I am as a person.
Right. Yeah. I'm with you. Let's see. So how do you feel that your upbringing has helped make you who you are? And what does it mean to you to be Appalachian or part of the Appalachian culture?
I never really thought about Appalachian until I learned about it in college. Like I had heard the term, but I had never like self-identified, like it had never processed into that layer of being like, oh, it's actually considered, part of this class that's you have chronic health disease and, depression and mental illness and all these other things. And then you go to that area and you see it and you're like, I know why this is happening. It's because they live here, the fact that I grew up in Ohio, the fact that my grandparents moved my family out and, they established a foothold here for all of us has made a world of difference. I can go back to Williamson today and see what my life would be compared to what it is now. Makes all my my big problems feel like small problems because it's like, oh, I could live here. So
yeah. So do you feel that you, even though you don't live there and you live here in Cincinnati, that you still identify with that culture and you feel a part of it in some ways still, and then you're just in a different place. You're still a part of those people, I guess. Maybe.
Even in Cincinnati, in the 275 loop, like growing up in Mason and Mainville and right there by Kings Island, and then moving out to Eastgate like I did, and being closer to 32 and being up and down that stretch between Amelia, I noticed a huge difference. Like from Milford to about Kellogg, you just get a swath of Appalachian that you don't really notice in the rest of the city.
Yeah.
And you look around, you're like, oh no, these are my people. Like you realize you're in the zone. And it's a funny feeling. And then, moving back out here to Hamilton, the amount of diversity and, different people, it doesn't feel that way. Sure. It's just that side of town.
Well, the interesting thing about that is, and this is just a map made by the government, but Claremont County is considered Appalachian. Like it's part of the Appalachian region. Like, so there's a county line right there. Like Warren County.
Cincinnati,
Warren County.
275 loop.
Yeah. Warren County, no. Hamilton County, no. Butler County, no. Claremont County, you guys are Appalachian. It's, according to the government, which is, and it's
and
funny
then we get here and we sneak across the borders and we're slowly taking over and making the rest of Cincinnati Appalachian.
Well, I would probably be better off for it. These mountains ain't going to move themselves.
Right.
All right. So I guess this is an interesting kind of question. Who else can be Appalachian in your opinion? It's kind of a little.
See, that's the thing is because it doesn't necessarily associate with race. It's more of like generation in the hills because there's a whole part of Williamson that is Black, African American, and while you don't directly identify them, obviously visually, but you talk to them, the way they interact with everybody, like you get that feeling of like, no, they're entrenched in Appalachia. So I don't know if that's a form of like, fitting in, or if it's just part of like living in the hills will do to you kind of thing.
Sure. I'm sure I've met far more Black Appalachian people than I realized, but there's two that stand out. And one I used to work with named Cedric. And I mean, he was, as Appalachian as you can come. I mean,
they're just good old boys. Like, they're the kind of friend that you would have that would casually wear overalls without a shirt. And just not
he did. He would wear these. And he was a big boy. I mean, I know he probably played football at some point, if I had to guess, but he would wear his safety vest without a shirt on. So, and he's this big. I mean, he must have been 300 pounds of muscle, and he'd wear this safety vest at this utility company where we were working at, and he lived in West Virginia, and he'd commute to work every couple of weeks, and it just cracked me up. We'd be on the side of the road, and I'm like skinny me, with my collared shirt and a safety vest, and he's just like, nope, safety vest, that's it. Side of the road. Cracked me up. So he was a good guy.
He's out working in the sun, enjoying
Oh,
himself.
he loved it. So he'd
Yeah.
talk, and he cracked me up because he'd be like, "Man, I just want to get home and ride my four-wheeler." I'm like, I just wish
Yeah.
I had a four-wheeler and a place to ride it, man.
I got a pond out back. I'm gonna gig some frogs tonight.
Yeah. um, so I guess here's the next one. How do you define Appalachia as a place?
As a place,
Yes.
in the hills and the foothills of the Appalachian Range. So it doesn't go all the way up to Maine. Like there's part of that.
Yeah.
Because the Appalachian Trail ends in Maine. So
Yeah, it
it's
does.
like the whole swath all the way down to about like South Carolina, North Carolina.
I
There's
think
different flavor of Appalachian, but
Yeah.
I understand the category. Like you can look at the group and be like, oh yeah, you're not from the West Coast. I get
yeah.
Yeah.
You're Western North Carolina, I can tell.
Oh, you grew up on this side of the country. I got you.
you. I think technically the Appalachian Mountains are like I think those northern mountains aren't technically the Appalachian Mountains. I think they're technically their own range. I could be wrong
like
about
the
that.
Cascades or something.
Yeah, it's kind of like there's the Poconos, and then there's like the White Mountains, and the Green Mountains, in Vermont and New Hampshire. But they all feel, like Appalachia to me. And I think that the government's, it's called the Appalachian Commission region or something like that. I think they cut it off at like the bottom of New York and then go down to mid Georgia and then a little bit west from there.
Yeah.
But anyways,
that makes sense.
Yeah. I guess, why have you chosen this definition?
I'm sorry.
The next one I have on my list is why have you chosen this definition?
Why have I chosen this designation for myself?
Definition as where you define Appalachia as a place.
So the mountain range, the folks that live in the hills.
Yeah.
It coming from just living in that part of the country. I'm losing my light. I'm going to turn on the light in my back porch.
Yeah, you're fine. Yeah, take your time.
Okay.
All right, Elliot. So we just talked about what you define as Appalachia as a place and why you chose that definition. So I'm going to kind of broaden that question out to make it a little more interesting. So you see Appalachia as a people and a place in the Appalachian Range.
Yes.
So we were talking off recording. Are there other places that you might identify that have Appalachian leanings that are far removed from the actual Appalachian region?
Yeah. I would say there's a region of Missouri that I've been to in the Ozarks, and it's a different flair. It has a different vibe to it, but you get the same kind of vibe. Same kind of feeling, interacting with the people. They're down home, humble folks, but there's also, there's just a lot of space out there, not a lot of people.
Yeah,
creates a different breed.
Do you remember that gas station we stopped at? I think we got a little bit lost, and I was like, "This is like just reminds me of being in West Virginia or Eastern Kentucky," and I was like,
"Oh yeah,
I love it. I'm liking it. I feel like
you come out of the hills where there's nothing, just beautiful nature." Then you pull up on a local gas station that also has a convenience store that sells gas. And there's maybe like one other place down the road, and it's just a bunch of houses. There might be a church there. And all of a sudden you're back in the hills again. You're like, what was that? There's just people living in that little valley, and then you're just back in the mountains.
Yeah.
You're like, it's crazy.
I think that canoe place was kind of like that. It was like we were in like a rural suburb almost. Like just
it's like Morgan's. It would just be like if Morgan's was out in Missouri, they'd do the same thing.
Yeah. For anybody watching, Morgan's Canoe is like the local Cincinnati rafting or canoeing place that you go to.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess this kind of digs a little bit deeper and more academically in thought. So what are some of the strengths or opportunities of Appalachia or Appalachian identity? So what are some of the strengths that you would identify with people that are Appalachian?
Dedication. Most of them I would say are hardworking. There's a handful of bad apples, but they tend to weed themselves off. Unfortunately up there was some kind of either drug or accidental accident, like driving or falling off an ATD or doing something like that. But dedication, I think they know how to sympathize and empathize. I feel like when you're talking to them, they're engaging. They're actually interested in what you want to have to say. I'd say that's about it off the top of my head right now.
Okay.
Because again, you just think about the negatives. So thinking about the positives is something different. Yeah.
No, that's good. I guess why I thought about that, you said kind of the diversity thing. And we can pass on this if you want to. It's a little more personal. For some people, it's more personal. So I think if I remember right, you grew up Methodist, is that right?
Yes.
Does that translate from your family's home in West Virginia, or is that just sort of
Yeah, in the town there's Baptist, there's I think it's New Evangelical, like I think that's the one where the pastor gets up and like dances with snakes, like that happens up there.
okay.
And then there's a lot of Methodist.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your parents were raised Methodist and then decided to continue being Methodist when they moved?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Raised me at a Methodist church until I was able to go out on my own, so through college.
Cool. So for me, like my family, my mom was Catholic, my dad was just non-church going Christians,
Yeah.
And then we picked a church randomly that was in the middle, like Lutheran. So I randomly grew up Lutheran just from the mash. So there was no like family continuation, I guess. In its own regard. So, all right, that's pretty cool. Travel 300 miles and still Methodist, and
it's also sorry.
No, you're fine. No, we're good.
No, because it's not about Appalachian. That's more of a religious belief. So I was going to say something about being Methodist, but it's more New Age. It has nothing to do with the conversation we're having. So.
No, that's good. So let's see. All right. So I guess on the reverse of what are the strengths? So what are some of the challenge Appalachians have and Appalachian people have?
I would say mental health, obviously. The chronic diseases, so like having better food supply, better health resources, like those basic approaches, because it's just hard. Like you're not getting the same kind of medicine up in the hills that you're getting in Chicago or New York or the whole socioeconomic level, of your parents only making so much money and you only have so many opportunities in front of you, and where life takes you. It's hard to break that cycle.
Yeah.
So I would say, that approach of, making more of yourself than just your surroundings. But there's a lot of folks that unfortunately don't make it out. And, they live very happy lives, and, everybody grows up and having one idea, and then you become an adult and, your priorities change. So.
I understand that.
Yeah. Of course you would.
Yeah. I was gonna say, did we ever go to snowshoe together? I can't remember.
No, because I had messed up my shoulder.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Well, shoot, you keep missing out on things I want to do because
I'm just falling apart, man.
Dang it, man.
I just got surgery this time though, so that'll be better.
I told you about the guy that we took that decided to go skiing down rocks and broke his collarbone.
Yeah.
So we were in, I think it's the Greenbrier region of West Virginia. I can't think of it.
My uncle loves that place.
It's great. It's beautiful. Yeah. Very rural though, obviously. So we needed to find a hospital because we didn't know what was wrong with him. Ski patrol checked him out. We had to find a hospital, and this is probably right around the dawn of smartphones. So we were able to use our phones a little bit.
Yeah.
And I swear,
But there's still no reception up there, so you got to
no,
get to a certain spot.
we had to like download the map at the resort and then navigate from there. And I was like, man, this guy's going to get charged for a helicopter ride out of here, and it's going to cost like $100 grand.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we couldn't find a hospital. I mean, there was one. It was like essentially a clinic, and it was the weekend, so we couldn't, really do anything. And I was pretty sure that the clinic was also a veterinarian clinic.
Yeah.
It was like split in half, like horses and cows here and people over here.
Yeah, they're like, we watch the instruments before we move them across the hallway. It's fine.
Well, yeah, and probably not, but yeah, it illustrates the point correctly. But
right.
So that just tells you, like, I mean, if you needed, if you got a heart attack,
yeah,
like, what do you do? Like, where do you go? Like, what, is aspirin your best hope?
Yeah, teach your family CPR, buy a defibrillator. Like, that's the best you can hope for.
Yeah, and then hope your county has air care, or
somebody's around to see you have a heart attack and you just don't die in the kitchen.
Yeah, I mean, because I know from like places like Huntington and Charleston.
Yeah,
like those are the two biggest towns in the west of Appalachia.
It's like 2-3 hours away from
you can get
where my family's from. Yeah,
and you can get in the middle of nowhere pretty quick. Like, and it's mountain roads. It takes a while to drive through them.
Yeah.
I have. Do you have any questions for me?
As far as the interview in general, or like how you feel about certain things?
So either one. So my last question I have here on here, and I've interjected some like questions throughout the common list, is so the last one is, do you have any questions about the interview or assignment before we close? So I guess on top of that, if you have any feedback questions or anything like that.
To a class or just turned in as a project?
So I have to. This is submitted to that Urban Coalition group in Cincinnati. It's part of it's a research project, really, and they just use oral storytelling to help document things with urban Appalachian people and where they're from, and maybe some of the reasons.
Put together like a study of responses and just general like socio. Not economic, but
it's a kind of like a sociological study.
There we go. Thank you.
A little bit of history. Probably looking for different things, and I think a lot of it too is just it's kind of like Band of Brothers. And I remember Tom Hanks, Steven Spielberg, and that was kind of part of, like, they did like an oral history of part of that project, and it was about getting as much information as we can down about these people before that time period is passed, so we understand as much as we can. Just collect knowledge and just keep it stored somewhere. So
do the same for the region. The video document, it can just be saved on a drive and kept on a server or whatever.
I'm sure I could like sit here and talk to you about it, because we're very similar people. We've known each other for a long time. I guess the final question for me is, do you want to go back to West Virginia and whitewater raft soon?
I don't know about whitewater rafts.
Oh man.
The way my body seems to be falling apart, I don't need to throw myself down. I did it. I could say that I did it. I don't need to do it again.
You don't want to do it again? That was a lot of fun.
No, it's something you do once. It's like bungee jumping. It's like you don't develop a bi-monthly hobby of jumping off a bridge with a rope tied to you. You're just I fucking jumped off a bridge.
I've got my own bungee cord now, man.
Right. Oh man, we can drive up on the weekend. I found this perfect bridge. You just got to make sure my harness is down.
It's just about
to get my body out of the creek.
We just do a little bit of math, and I've got the rope.
Gotta have the buddy system, man. Don't bungee by yourself.
Yeah.
End up in trouble.
Dang. Well, I guess. Well, did I tell you? Well,
I want to go camping. I would like to go, explore different. I want to do Red River, but I'm not sure about hiking that far just yet. I don't think I'm conditioned enough to sustain myself for 3 days in the wilderness, but I want to get there. Recovering from this, it's been a treat.
James and I, this is off. I'm still recording, but let me go ahead and wrap this interview up, and I'll end it. And we can talk for a few minutes. Well, Elliot, I really appreciate you coming on here and doing this interview. It's going to be very helpful for me, and I think it's going to be helpful for the Urban Appalachian group. this is being
I
done
hope
for.
so. I hope I can contribute.
Yeah, and I know I don't know, I've known you for 15 years now. It's been spring break of 06.
19 or 21 I was when we met.
Yeah, I know.
So
I
that's been
could I buy
like
no?
13 years.
Neither of us could buy beer at Houston Woods.
Okay.
So
Yeah, probably about 15 then.
2005, 2006.
Yeah.
So, well, I sincerely appreciate it, and I think hopefully other people find some of this information insightful. So we'll go ahead and end it today,
Yeah.
and I say thank you.
Not a problem.